right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lydia Olson, and I'm the technical specialist for the Massachusetts Rivers Alliance. Welcome to the Rainwater Readiness 2025 Stormwater Workshop webinar series. This webinar series offers information about grant and loan programs that are available to be utilized for stormwater management projects by managers from municipalities, nonprofits, and other organizations that may be considering such projects in the future. Okay. Nope. Hang on. Sorry about that. For the 2025 Stormwater Workshop webinar series topics and schedule, please visit the Mass Rivers Alliance website. We are still adding sessions to the series, so we recommend that you check the site frequently for the latest information. You will also find all the information and recordings for the in-person session of this series, which took place the last week of September, and our previous Stormwater Workshop series in 2023 there. So today's webinar will be discussing grants available through federally funded programs. Please mark your calendars for the next webinar, which is next Thursday, December 4th, after Thanksgiving at noon. We will be talking about how to leverage transportation grants to complete stormwater projects. So a few housekeeping items. This session is scheduled to end at 1 p.m. Please put your name and affiliation in the chat. Please put your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, which Mass River staff is tracking, or hold them until the last 5 to 10 minutes question and answer session. And these webinars are being recorded. Recordings and any other webinar materials will be made available on the Mass Rivers website. Lastly, we ask that you please complete the evaluation survey. The survey has been crucial in helping us continue and expand this series. We will also send it to you after the webinar. And now, I'm delighted to introduce our speakers today. Cressida Vela is the senior scientist for this Massachusetts-based National Estuary Partnership, a center at the University of Massachusetts Boston School for the Environment. She coordinates environmental research and monitoring, including water quality and estuarine resource assessment. In collaboration with watershed groups and partners from different sectors, Cressida enjoys the challenge of investigating the sources of impairment to inform decision-making and advance local action that will improve estuarine ecosystem health, as well as the well-being of communities dependent upon them. Among any other things, Cressida coordinates the Healthy Estuary Grant program that provides funding and technical support to communities, nonprofits, and academia for projects to promote natural resource management and restore and protect estuarine habitats. Previously, Cressida served as the ocean management analyst with the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Management, where she co-led the development and implementation of the Massachusetts Ocean Management Plan. Cressida holds a BS in biology and chemistry and an MS in marine biology from the University of Malta, as well as an MS in environmental science from the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Since August, she has been serving as interim director for the National Estuary Program. Carrie Klingon is the program director for Northeast Watersheds at the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. In this capacity, she directs the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation's Northeast Forests and Rivers Fund and Long Island Sound Futures Fund, as well as oversees community engagement efforts and grant making throughout the foundation. This initiative includes tracking the NIFWIF NIFWIF's impact and engagement through each of their conservation investments. Prior to joining NIFWIF in 2012, Ms. Klingon was a senior associate at the National Association of Counties and a legislative assistant to Congressman Michael R. McNulty. In both of these roles, she worked on policy regarding community engagement and water, coastal and green infrastructure related issues. Carrie holds a master's degree in public policy from the College of William and Mary and a bachelor's degree in fine arts from the Rochester Institute of Technology. And lastly, Erica Popowich is the manager for national programs at the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. In this role, she manages programs that support landscape scale restoration and locally driven collaborative conservation projects that achieve on-the-ground conservation for NIFWIF's funders and grantees. She comes to NIFWIF with over 10 years of experience working at the intersection of people and the environment. Her professional experience includes leading a municipal environmental education center and managing outreach and engagement for the West Michigan Environmental Action Council in Blue Water, Baltimore. Her work is focused on water conservation, stormwater infrastructure solutions, and supporting healthy, livable communities through tools, resources, and collaborative partnerships. Erica holds a master's degree in behavior, education, and communication from the University of Michigan School of Natural Resources and Environment, and a bachelor's degree in wildlife biology and management from Purdue University. Okay, and with all of those accolades, I will turn it over to Cressida.
I'm going to share my screen. Can you please let me know if you're seeing the right thing?
Yes.
Okay, so let me see. Okay, can you see my slide, the full screen?
We see the notes in the present, like
Okay,
the
let
notes and
me,
presentations.
okay, let me try that again. I apologize. I don't know what's doing this.
Not a problem.
How about now?
Yes, you are all set.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So, my name is Presides, and I come from the Mass-Based National Estuary Program. For those who are not familiar with the program, let me see. Do you see my screen changed? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Mass-Based is one of 28 national estuary programs around the country established by the Section 320 under the Clean Water Act. And this section is basically was added to specifically focus on estuaries of national importance and recognizing that there are coasts, there's the offshore waters, but estuaries where fresh water and salt water come together and usually present a very complex system where most things happen and most populations happen and most uses take place. So they are some of our most vulnerable systems. Um, as you can see on the right, there's the map of our study area. It goes all the way from the border with New Hampshire, from Salisbury, all the way to Provincetown. We have 1,100 miles of coastline. It includes 45 estuaries or estuarine embayments. We have 50 coastal communities within our study area, and the area is large enough that we use a model that splits it up into 5 regions, and each region is kind of managed under us by a regional coordinator that's hosted by a different entity. So, for example, in the Upper North Shore, our regional coordinators within the Merrimack Planning Commission. On the Lower North Shore, a regional coordinator is the Salem Sound Coast Watch. Northeastern Universities for Metro Boston, North and South River Watershed Association takes care of our South Shore, and the Cape is managed by the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. And as the central staff, we're hosted within the School for the Environment at the University of Boston. So very quickly about Mass-Based, as an NEP, it was established in 1990. It started with the cleanup of Boston Harbor and the relocation of the outfall, etc. But from then it expanded. It was set up as an NEP and then expanded all the way through most of the state. Again, funded by EPA from the Clean Water Act. We are non-regulatory, but we thrive on partnerships with federal and state agencies as well as with our communities that we help with, providing support and tools for municipalities and also for our nonprofit partners. As I said before, our regional service providers provide local technical assistance to the communities within their region, and that way it makes it more manageable. So the great thing about our regional coordinators is they know their areas inside out. They have the trust of the communities. They know the priorities of the area. They know what's happening. And so, for example, when it comes to grants, etc., they're able to, direct communities to what those needs are, how they can help support technical or funding. And anyway, I guess they are our face between central staff and the community. So it's a great way that has been working for the last 30 years. And we also provide state-of-the-base reporting, which is a requirement of every NEP. So here's a visual of our structure very quickly. In the middle, Mass-Based central staff with EPA being our governing, funder, etc., and our coordinator. On the left, or your left, is the 5 regional coordinators connected to the communities. On the right is our management committee. So the management committee is important because it's made up of all our representatives of many of our partners across local communities, state and federal agencies, private sector, NGOs, etc. And we also have a bunch of subcommittees under that. But most of our work, our work plans, etc., they have to be approved by our management committee before going to EPA for approval. Now, in 2023, we developed our latest version of the Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. And this is kind of a Bible that each NEP has to put together. It serves as a blueprint for how we do work over the next 10 years. And it pretty much sets the goals, main goals, and how they are then split up into strategies. And then these strategies are the basis for our work plan for every year. So our main goals are to support and research and management in the base, disseminate actionable information about coastal habitats, and provide state-of-the-base reporting that documents progress towards these targets. And all of these depend on input from our partners, from communities, from monitoring programs, etc. And the CCMP, or the blueprint, it has in it long-term goals. We set in it in this last version, long-term goals we want to reach by 2050. So those goals are for habitat restoration, and mainly it's eelgrass, tidal flats, salt marshes, diatomaceous fish habitat. And of course, you cannot go from, that now to 2050 without going through the short-term goals, which are the monitoring programs, monitoring and gathering data to identify conditions in the embayments, and also how we can address those. So if we have deteriorating quality, for example, in Salem Harbor, what is the cause of that? In Kingston Bay, a lot of the shellfish beds were closed. So what was the cause of that? And for example, in that case, we identified it was stormwater situations, and therefore we provided funding for them to do design and preliminary design, so that then they were in a good position to get funding for actual implementation of BMPs. With that, we hopefully see an improvement in water quality that will eventually bring back restoration of eelgrass. So that's kind of like, in a utopian view of what should happen. The reality is a little bit more complex, but you have to start somewhere. So about the program, and by the program, this is the Healthy Estuaries Grant program that we started in 2011. And the reason we started this is that we noticed that there were a lot of needs among communities. They wanted to, put up, establish stormwater BMPs, restore their salt marsh, things like that. And a lot of the grants that were out there were for projects that are shovel ready. And so there was a gap. There was no funding for, collection of data in order to get these processes going. So we identified these gaps and we provided funding to grow capacity, help communities or groups conduct research to address these knowledge gaps, and collect monitoring that would help them, for decision making to take these actions. And once they have those data, then they were in a good situation to be eligible for bigger pots of money. So we wanted to make sure, however, that the grants or the projects would address the goals of the CCMP. And a little bit of numbers. Since 2011, we granted, actually that number is a little low, it's more than that, it's almost $1 million for 45 projects, and we've leveraged 82% in match. So moving forward, we have been able to increase that. Unfortunately, funding goes up and down a little bit. So there are times when we have a big sum of money to give out. There are times when it's smaller amount, and therefore we have to cap the projects at a little bit lower. On our website is an interactive map. You can click on these dots, and this shows where projects were done. And it tells you, for example, this one is the Belle Isle Marsh Reservation Environmental Resource Inventory. And then you can go to look at, for example, where it says more information, click on that, and it gives you the reports. It takes you to their project site or the organization site, and that we would like to have more information added to this, a little bit more of a summary about the project, but this is growing. So you can go ahead and to our website and play around with that. And just to give you a very quick example, this was in the lower hand map, the lower left-hand corner, the map shows the Armstrong Dam in the city of Braintree. And we provided funding for a feasibility study that was much needed to see feasibility of removing the Armstrong Dam. And so with that little amount of funding that we provided, the town was able to get more funding from the Department of Fish and Game and others to actually remove the dam. And here is the first bites being taken out of the dam. At the end of that, we restored the channel that goes over Montaquit River. And here's what it looks like now. And finally, there's also a fish bypass and a viewing platform. So there's the reconnection of habitat as well. So this is not a stormwater example, but this is one example of what our projects provide. And there are stormwater examples for similar to this as well. So the grant application process, very quickly, we post an RFP usually on byways, and there's a Q&A period. We decided kind of a few years ago to split this up into two and have first a letter of interest or a pre-proposal, which is like a 2-page summary with a total budget estimate and match. So that then the review committee can review this and ask for full proposals and a detailed budget by invitation. It goes again through a round of review, and then there is also, the final ones will get award notification. We also reach out in between to those invited to help with, like, say, for example, if you do this to your project, it will be, better. You can reach the goal better, etc. So there is help and assistance between the pre-proposal and the full proposal. Project eligibility. It's research, monitoring, and data analysis and planning initiatives. We like to focus on protecting, restoring, and enhancing coastal habitats and communities. This is kind of a very high-level goal. Topics of interest include identifying and documenting impacts from pollution, climate change, etc. We like to fund applied research and proof of concept activities, as well as effort to address data gaps and activities that will get support, as I said before, from larger investments, such as 319 grants and in-lieu fee grants. Projects must inform and advance near-term estuarine and coastal management initiatives, so they have to line up with the CCMP, and work has to be conducted within the mass-based planning area. Not eligible projects required as compensatory mitigation and lobbying. Eligible applicants are mass-based communities, 501c3s, regional planning agencies, nonprofits, and academia. And even though one entity can provide more than one project proposal, we only will fund one per entity, just to spread the wealth a little bit, right? We do allow and actually encourage collaborations, although one entity will be the main recipient. And state agencies and not-for-profits, although not eligible as applicants, they can be subcontractors. Regarding funding, we have a maximum and a minimum. We provide a minimum, say like $8,000, so that we make sure that the projects we fund have some meat in them. And then our maximum is usually anywhere between 25 and 35,000, depending on how much funding we have. We do encourage proponents to have cost-saving measures, and we require at least a 25% in match that could be in cash or in kind for each project. And then after the award, there's notification as well. And then we develop together with the proponent, scope of work and timeline, put together a deliverable schedule, a contract that once executed, work can start. Contract duration is usually 18 to 24 months, so that will make sure that people have at least 2 seasons for gathering data, etc., especially if it's water quality monitoring. And there is the possibility of having no-cost extensions as well. And we encourage invoicing every quarter just to keep track. Some general requirements, because this is EPA funded ultimately, so it's a federal fund, they do require that if there is any data collection, you need a quality assurance planning plan, project plan, QAP. And from experience, we know that a lot of municipalities or smaller groups don't have the capacity to put this together, and they see it as a big challenge. So Mass-Based developed a tool called AquaQuap that is sort of like, if you're familiar with like a TurboTax, it walks you through the process, and then it spits out kind of a document style QAP that then you can make adjustment or changes to as you wish. But the bulk of the material, QOs, etc., are all there, depending on what parameters you choose. It's also on our website. I encourage you to look at it, and it's also going to be updated shortly. But it will still be available as is in the meantime. Co-ops must be approved by EPA prior to start of any monitoring work. And then quarterly progress reports are what's required. A final report with management recommendations. It's very important that people tie in the data with their findings and how this lines up with management, that lines up with the CCMP. We also ask for a one-page with photos, etc., to be put on our website, and to present also the findings to our management committee meeting after the project is done in some future date. And importantly, to acknowledge in any posters, publications, etc., that the funding comes from MustBase and especially EPA. They're very sensitive to that because obviously that means leverage, and they can go back to Congress and get more money when they show how much work is done. Last slide. Next steps, current projects will wrap up by the end of this year, the 24 to 25 projects that are ongoing now. A new RFP will be posted in early January, and postings will be through these sites, either website or byways, email, a quarterly newsletter. It will be on our Facebook page and Instagram and partner newsletter. So there are many ways of distributing these data. So I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if I went over time. I was trying to hurry up.
No, you're good. That was perfect. Thank you so much. And we will hold questions until the end. But if you have any questions that you want to remember, just put them in the chat quickly. And just a note, we will be stopping the recording now. So if you are interested in the next two presentations, please take notes because there will not be a recording, but they will have their slides and any resources attached up on our website afterwards. So I will just